Yes, hi, hello everyone. Nice to see you here. And thanks for the introduction. That was pretty nice. As you said, I want to talk to you about how we are doing continuous delivery for Android at Plain Vanilla and like how the road there was for us. The iOS team has really similar processes, but I'm gonna be talking from the Android side. And I kind of just realized yesterday that I was like assuming that everybody knows what QuizUp is, but if you do not know, it is a trivia app where you can compete with friends or random people in all kinds of trivia topics, and each topic have their community page and a lot of cool stuff. So if you haven't tried it, I recommend that you do. And to give you a little bit of context of our user base, we have around 42 million users worldwide, and about half of them are Android. These users play 5 million games per day, and recently we have been getting more Android users that I wanted to tell you. So our daily active users right now are 52%. We can actually thank that to, we have recently been very popular in Brazil for some reason. The Minecraft fans there are using our app a lot, and they all use Android devices. But why continuous delivery? And like, why is it so important, especially in the mobile world? We want to ship our product really fast to people, and with continuous delivery, where you ship fast, you do it in incremental updates. This reduces the time spent on releasing and reduces the risk, and it also reduces the stress factor of releasing, to have this all automated and people are confident on what they're doing. This is a rough timeline of our releases. We first released on iOS in November 2013. Before that, we had been releasing like the small one topic per app, QuizUp apps, but I'm mainly just talking about our big QuizUp app as it is today. We released Android a couple of months later, in March 2014, and this is only 2 years ago, but like for me, it feels like, you know, many decades ago almost, because there have been so many changes since then, both in the company and also just in the mobile world. And I guess this also goes for other platforms as well. But for example, for Android, like the build system has changed, and just a lot of features have been added to the Android environment. So yeah, and then in May 2015, we released like a big revamped version, and honestly, we basically rewrote all of our client code for that. And before that release, we really wanted to be able to ship more often. At this time, we did not have any continuous delivery at all. Every release was manual. And just wanted to tell you a little bit like how we did it at first and what we learned from that. First, shortly after the release of our Android client, we split our, instead of working in disciplines like for iOS and Android and server, we had like these feature teams that were working on a feature with people from all disciplines, and like a dedicated release team that, and their responsibility was, you know, releasing and making sure that like the core functions of the app was stable. And this meant we had like a week code freeze before each release, and we used this terminology of release trains. So sometimes we had like with 2 weeks intervals, we also tried with 3 week intervals, and the idea was that the feature teams were aiming to get on a release train, and if they missed that train, they would just get on the next one. And in theory, this sounded pretty nice, but in practice, this was really slow. And like for Android, we were only releasing an update maybe every 3 or 4 weeks, which we thought was like much too slow. And if a feature team missed a train, it caused really much stress to get the next one, and sometimes like neither feature team had any code, and And yeah, and like this week of code trees, since we didn't really have any structured testing really. We had like some unit tests in the iOS and server, but on Android we basically did not have anything. So we like did smoke testing where we had like test cases for every aspect of the app, and testers like went through that, which is like a long process. Yeah, so we like iterated on this, and the whole company took up agile processes, and we moved the release back within the feature team. And like also one thing we discovered, like that the mindset of developers became like a bit weird when they were just like this other team that was responsible for the end result of the product. We just want our developers to like be really confident in their code and take responsibility of it. And somehow, yeah, we felt like having the release within a team was like a much better way to go. So the feature team like structured their releases based on their sprints. We were using Scrum at the time, and yeah, and I mean it got better, and we got better at doing it, and to like try to minimize the whole smoke testing phase and this whole code freeze thing. We implemented a feature called Shake and Report. So if you have our app, you can shake your device, and that will send us an email with a log from the phone and screenshots and device and player info. And this is like really helpful when debugging and getting reports from users. At first, we only had this for team members and testers, but now we actually have it just for every user. They can go to their settings and choose to do this for us. And we find this really valuable. At this time, we started to do automated in-house builds for all of our employees. We use a tool called Hockey app to do that, to distribute the app, both for iOS and Android. And we thought it was like really cool to have like a daily build of like the newest code that was in master. But very shortly after that, we thought like, why just daily, and we changed it to an hourly build. So now we build every hour, and all of our employees get the newest update, and we like encourage them, of course, to use that, because like the sooner the bugs are discovered, the easier it is to fix them. And yeah, TDD, or like test-driven development, we wanted to be more confident in our code, so we started to unit test, and we like tried to unit test at least like all the logic in our code. And like yeah, and when you are unit testing, you have to understand what your code is doing. Basically, like you can't test something if you're not completely sure in it, and it kind of forces you to be like completely sure in what you're doing, and of course like finds bugs if there are bugs in your logic. And the code also just becomes more structured and readable. So there's like all kinds of positive effects to it, though of course it does take a little bit more time, especially in the beginning when we were like learning it. And for me personally, before we started to do this 2 years ago, like I had never written a unit test in my life, so it was a bit of a challenge, but really fun. Another thing we started to do to like be more assured of the quality of our build, that we started to use a feature Google Play Store offers, which is a beta group. They actually also have like an alpha and a beta, and then the build is in production. I'm only going to talk about the beta group now, but all the same principles applies for the alpha group. So, and it basically works like that. We created just a Google Plus group, which we add people to, and that's linked to our build, and those users just get a new update through the Play Store just as they would with the normal version, which is like really awesome to get. And we started out with this before the initial release on Android, and like, it was always there. We didn't really focus a lot on it until in late 2014 we started to realize like how valuable this was for us to get just users to play on our app. And of course our app is just a game. Maybe this would not be a good idea if it's like a life or death matter for a software. But like some numbers I threw up here is like if we would have like 5 testers in-house testing the app for 8 hours, that's 40 hours of testing. But when you have like a beta group of 1,000 testers and each of them only plays for 2 hours, that's 2,000 hours of testing of your app, which is very awesome. We soon realized that we had like this Google Plus group where the beta users could talk to us, and it became really noisy because they started to complain about everything they thought about. So now we have this thing called open beta. So we basically just have a URL share with our users. They just click it, accept to become a testers, and bam, they are beta testers, which is like a really easy step. And then we just encourage them to use our own QuizUp feedback topic we have in the game, and there we can like communicate with them and they to us. So to do continuous delivery, we of course have to automate everything. That was at least the plan, and we pretty much did it. So here are the steps we did, and this is done. Some of them are also done for the hourly builds, but all of them are done for our daily build. First of all, we need to build all of our unit tests in the code. And we do this for every PR, pull request we do on GitHub, and for every hourly build and for every daily build. And at first, you could only write Android tests, which means it's written in the Android SDK, and it needs to be built onto a device, and this is really slow. And all of our Android tests we have for QuizUp, it takes 20 minutes to build them all. So it's not something you do locally and wait for. So we have our build servers that do that for us. Then finally, a year ago, Android offered also to have JVM tests, which are just pure Java tests, and they are just really quick. And I mean, those just take within a minute, I think, to build. And we write like all of our tests in Java now. And I can't describe how faster build times has made the mental health of our Android developers better. This is like the most bugging thing about programming for Android, that is the build time. But it's always getting increasingly better. Obfuscation. So if you did not know, it's really easy to reverse engineer an Android app and just see the whole code behind it. So we have been obfuscating the code so it becomes unreadable if you do that. And we do it because we don't want people to cheat or and they could, in theory, just, take our app and repackage it and send to Play Store and all kinds of shenanigans. So this takes a couple of minutes, this step, and it also clears out all of the logs and encrypt some strings we don't want to, secret strings, and does some optimizations as well. As I said before, we do in-house distribution, both hourly and daily. And in both cases, we always both do a release build and a debug build. The release build, that's obfuscated. And we have to do that also in the hourly build because our QA tests always the release build, because the obfuscation step can cause some problems, which is really annoying, at the end, and we have had that happen to us. And we also just want an hourly debug build because our debug build, of course, contains all the logs, and we have a lot of developer settings in that, changing servers and all kinds of cool stuff. And translations, we not only have QuizUp in English, but we have it in 5 other languages. So before each update to our daily beta group, we just update all the translations, so they are up to date. Then it's shipped to beta in Play Store every night. We do some GitHub tags and stuff, and upload release notes in all languages as well. And I'm going to show you this really nice flowchart of our process, and this is basically what I was saying. So we start by like working on feature branches on GitHub, which are merged into master. The only thing missing here is like Jenkins also builds all of our pull requests, of course, with all the tests and stuff like that before they are merged into master. We have the hourly build, debug, and release on Hockey app and update translations. Then every day we have also the debug and release build in Hockey app, and the release build then is shipped to the Play Store. So the only thing left now for a complete release is to actually move the beta build to production. And in theory, we could also do that every day, as we do with the beta build. But in practice, we do it weekly on average. That's because we haven't like completed the step to have it like automated to verify if the build is healthy or not. Because since we are shipping to beta every day, that means that sometimes stuff goes in there that we have not been able to test in-house. And we just kind of accepted that it would be okay for the beta to have something broken for a day. But we can always like fix it, and it will ship a new version like within 24 hours. And it is also just kind of scary of just having it completely automated and release the build into the wild without some human eyes on it. But you know, maybe that's just a mindset we will change later. Who knows? But we have done some cool stuff though. We have this dashboard in our office. This is all of our CI jobs, and they become red if anything breaks. And yeah, even say who the culprit is for pull requests. And okay, yeah. And for our release process, we have like a weekly role of we call it having the release hat. So each member of the Android discipline has for 1 week the responsibility of following up on a release and release the next one. And we actually have a physical hat that goes around in the office to try to make things fun. And what that person does then is we have like all kinds of metrics we analyze, like crash numbers and error dialogues and stuff like that. And that person like checks it once a day, both to verify the health of the latest release build and as well just to follow up on the beta builds that are going out every day, to see if they are like broken or not. And then like on top of that, of course, we have a QA team that oversees our shaken reports and is also testing the stuff we merge in. And iOS has a really similar process as us. Yeah, maybe one thing I forgot to talk about before was like also the difference. Like the difference of iOS and Android is mainly that on iOS we have to of course submit to the App Store before we get released, and it takes about an average of 7 days for Apple to approve the build, and they can even reject it, and that happens always every once in a while. While in the Play Store we are that lucky that we upload our build and it takes within 2 hours to get out in the Play Store. But of course then also for mobile that's different than from say web, is like on web you deploy your code and it's out there to everyone, very fast. But on mobile you can't guarantee that the users will even update their version, so there's always this trail of old versions out in the wild. But in the Play Store they have by default automatic updates, and we are seeing an average of 7 days of adoption rate that people update to our new versions, which we think is pretty nice. So that was releasing to the Play Store, but we also have another means of releasing under A/B testing, and we use A/B testing now for all of our new features. And A/B testing means that you have one control group, which is group A, and then you have a small experiment group, group B. And the experiment group can see like gets the new feature. And then like we analyze data from that and see if we need to tweak it in some way and before we decide to release it to everyone or even just decide to drop it. And this is a part of our like data-driven decision mode we want to be in. Like even though we feel like a lot of the things we have done are really, just cool ideas we came up with and users really liked, it's really good to back up your decisions by data. So this is a big part of that. And also this means that we can actually like release an update without updating the client itself. If it just has been under an A/B test, we can just open the A/B test and that we just do server-side in our A/B testing service. And that's also really, really nice. And we also use it, we should of course not use it like that, but it also has happened that we have, published a broken feature under an A/B test, and then when we have been able to turn it off. But of course you should not think like that, so don't tell anybody I told you that. I want to end this with some there's some mind-boggling problems we had happen to us while in this process, some problems that we didn't really think of on forehand. One of those is semantic versioning. We assume you all know what that is, but we have a major version number and a minor and a patch, which is used then for bug fixes, which you increase with every update. And we were wondering, when you update us every day, we have to increase the version number every day. What number should that be, and how does it make sense? But after talking about this back and forth, we just realized that our users, they don't care at all. They just have auto updates on their app, and they're never thinking about the versioning number. So we just decided that we just needed any increasing number. So we are using the build number. So our fourth number is just the number of builds that we have done since we started to do continuous integration. Then you know that. Another thing is, I just had to put this in there. There is no beta build. What I mean by that is it's been really hard sometimes to explain to people, and I hope I can explain it to you here, that there is no specific beta build. Every beta build we upload every day is a potential release candidate. And when we publish, we just take exactly that build and that becomes the production build. So this complicates a little bit if we want to have something that's only in the beta. So we are more using things like A/B tests if we want to test something on a small portion. There is one thing though we do for only beta users. That is the shake and report feature I told you about. We want to get that from our beta users immediately, to have the feedback loop really short, to get to know the bugs immediately. But from our normal users, we don't want to see that as developers right away. So our regular users, their shake and reports go to support and through a filtering system, while our beta users can shake directly to our QA Asana box. Asana is a management tool we use. So how did we do that? We have a check in the build that if it's more recent than 25 hours, we assume you are a beta user, because it always goes up for 24 hours in beta before it will go into production. And some might say it's a bit hacky solution, but others could say it's really smart. Another problem we had was release notes, and this was always a big problem even before when we did manual releases. To have descriptive release notes of what was in the build, and then having it translated in all the languages. And somehow this just always happened in the last minute, and we had to get translations, and it was kinda stress around this. So we weren't like sure how we could incorporate this into like an automated process. So we like investigated how important are release notes, and like do people actually read them, and we all like read them. We love descriptive release notes and fun release notes, but at the same time not that many people actually read them, especially like with Android that just have automatic updates. So we just decided to have this all automated, and for like a couple of months last year we had the most boring release notes of all. You probably all read them. Bug fixes and stability improvements. But there were like a few of us that really bugged us, because we at QuizUp, like our voice is really fun, and this was just really boring. So we got help of our community team to write a couple of release notes and have them translated in all our languages, and now we just choose from a pool of them. And they're maybe not descriptive, but they are at least more fun. And every once in a while, of course, we do big features, and we want to have it in the release notes, and then we have them written, and that is done manually. And also, like with the A/B testing process, we don't write release notes for those like until it's out to everybody. So that kind of also made the descriptive release notes for build maybe not be as important as that. Yeah. I hope this was informative to you. I would love to answer some questions if you have any. Otherwise, I just say thanks.